When I started my postdoc period, that's more than 16 years ago at the Max Planck Institute for the Religious and Ethnic Diversity in Göttingen, Germany, on the very first day, the director welcomed me with the words, "We here publish or perish." And just as a ordained minister, I played around with these words, publish or perish, because with parish, you can also hear in the parish, the community, the congregation, And then I thought, okay, that's perhaps one of the dangers of, for many of us theologians who engage in academic journeys, that it is publish or perish not in dying out or killing ourselves, but ending up at the day-to-day business of doing service in our communities, yet the very fact that we embarked on an academic journey is a signal that there must be there an calling too. So put it differently, to go beyond this publish or perish principle, one needs to start with the statement that academic writing is a spiritual discipline. So put it differently, if you see here, I chose this little icon of the moment you open your laptop or you open your notebook and pick up your pen, be aware or become aware that you are not alone, and writing in itself is a spiritual discipline. Now, with many of the disciplines, well, Roman Catholics, Orthodox brothers and sisters know that even better than the Protestant ones among us, with the disciplines is like that it has to become a habit. And it's up to our characters when and how this becomes a habit, whether it is a half an hour per day activity or whether it's a 2 hours activity, or how it navigates through your daily lives. But just keep in mind, have you ever looked to academic writing from the perspective of vocation and spiritual discipline? And that means that when we reflect to our academic activities from that perspective, you start reflecting on the world around yourself also from this primer theological attitude. So theological here means looking together with God from your own spirituality, which is quite different in each of our own in our own cases, but to look, meditate, pray in relation to the world in which you find yourselves. Because after all, any idea you get and you start researching it must be rooted in this relationship between you as an academic person and the world you live in. Therefore, I do not believe in conjunctions as academic and word, or academia and church. This is always from a within attitude. Now I will check my translators because I promised them that I will speak slowly, and I realized that I just got very speedy. So are they okay with this speed, or should I slow down?
You're
See,
okay.
I am okay, good. Thanks, you have excellent translators. So this meditative, this prayerful attitude, time and again in this habit of keeping in mind your journeying, so to say, or journaling your academic ideas. Usually, well, I always use a separate book for the journaling ideas, which are full with just keywords, sentences, questions. It is next to me also in the night. If I get up, then you have some keywords you might forget by morning. So map the questions which are asked in a certain discourse. Try to become aware of the realities of talk in the everyday life, and check how does that relate to that what you are interested in, and to that in which you already have some expertise. after this listening, or in this listening, meditating, looking, watching around modus, try to formulate time and again questions. So getting to publishable ideas always starts with questions. So the getting trained in asking questions is quite important. Which questions do you miss? What are your own questions? Where do they come from? Why nobody is addressing the question you are most interested in? Why nobody recognizes that the question you ask is interesting? So ask or try to internalize the habit of asking, formulating matters in questions. Very often, my students, when I ask them to formulate questions, they come with remarks and with comments. And then we go back and say, how would you formulate that into a question? So really into a sentence where you add a question mark behind. The PowerPoint you will get afterwards, of course. And then in this publish and perish modus of academic life, Roman already mentioned the third P word, the pressure. And to cope with the pressure is something which again asks for this spiritual firmness. And especially in theology, we have to give the counter voice as well, that ideas need to ripe, they need time. And needing time does not mean that you embark on PhD projects which will never end, or they will take 20 years instead of 5 years, but allow ideas to ripe means that you are busy, constantly busy. In the back of your head, you are carrying with you your questions. Again, going back to this, looking at the word from that posture of asking questions. So I allow ideas to ripe, to be shaped and created. And again, at the moment I say it is a spiritual discipline, I consciously involve also the habit or the act of praying about these ideas. Because after all, we do not publish for our own sake or career building, but we publish because we are convinced that the texts we produce do contribute to something good, something about which we are convinced that it is good. So, but writing ideas is never without reading. And that is the second aspect, and I will not speak too long about this necessity of reading around. Reading around in at least in two ways. Reading around in the area of the expertise you are standing in as a field, as a discipline within theology, systematic theology, topic-wise, and so on, but reading around also outside theology. So read literary texts, read poems, read everything which is specified as non-theological literature, because very often the connection to the world in which we live and are situated comes from there, and new ideas are generated from there. Try to work together with others as a source for new ideas. Again here, both with theologians and outside theology. We are quite well known. Theologians is the German word. It says Einzelgänger, single goers. But single goer theologians can turn dangerous. So try to pair up, to team up with other theologians as you do this afternoon and share your ideas. We are not to turn into ideas machines. We are created in order to create, and creation means relationality, also at the level of developing new ideas. And yes, publish or perish, but at what costs? The psychological aspects of this pressure, the publish or perish pressure, cannot be underestimated. We need mechanisms to cope with. And to start with, it's always asking the big why and how questions. So in order to reduce, so publish or perish at what costs, time and again, we have to ask the questions: who are we as writers? What do I write? Why do I write? For whom do I write? How do I write? And where do I write? And where do I write gets also to the technicalities of journals, publishing houses, and so on and so forth. I think in the second half of this meeting, we can enter into that discussion as well. Beyond the publish or perish, we have to be quite realistic about the challenges of the academic publishing, or even if I call it the academic entrepreneurship. In the world in which much of the academic publishing is still graded and ranked in A, B, C journals, we have to to navigate our ways. So be aware in which system a journal, a publishing house is located, those journals and publishing houses with which you want to publish. So read their mission statement, read their, go and see who is sitting in the editorial, what kind of people, what kind of experts are there, in order to try to get to know, to familiarize with the spirit of that journal. Very often, publishing houses turn into or go quite wild in terms of neo-capitalism. Do you want to join those kind of groups, even if it's an A journal? So try to get clear with whom do you affiliate with, why and by whom are you pushed to do so. Then, of course, there is also a hierarchy, hegemony of the in the academic world, in the publishing world, which pushes you toward into negotiating with power relationships. And in order to go the path of this academic world, you need mentors, you need people who are with you in this journey. Imagine the situation that you submit a article to a journal and you get back a review which is devastating. Then you really need a supervisor, a colleague who reads that review and tells you, well, look here, there are some very good points. This is what you should do with it, or, well, retry it. But don't think that the work or the assessment of the work is your personal assessment. So the texts are live their own lives. So when you get these devastating blind peer reviews, be aware that it's not you being devastated, but it is a text, and it is every now and then the responsibility of the editor in charge, or actually the misuse of the responsibility of the editor in charge, who allows to be sent out such devastating letters. This still happen in the broad academic life, unfortunately. So then, as we said, in this publish or perish enterprise we live, it's quite remarkable to see the amount of published texts. Now, in theology is not any different than in sciences, but just recently, a very famous, one of the most quoted scientists in biochemistry wrote a book about the rubbish which is published within biosciences. So we have to be so concrete when asking ourselves, is this text what I am sending out or giving out from my hand a rubbish? Do I want to contribute to the pollution of the academic publishing because I need publication, or do I need other strategies to strengthen my arguments, to get to that point that I'm really convinced that this text must be published. So think about that. Especially with we are in this online open access turn within academic publishing, the amount of publications is increasing even more. So try to consider, when do I have to speak up? When do I have to write up? And when do I have to stay silent? Very often we cannot do it by ourselves. There again, we need our peers, our critical friends, who filter, to start with, the ideas we embark on enthusiastically, thinking that we have found or invented the wheel again, and perhaps the wheels do not need to be reinvented. When talking about finding the publishable ideas or good ideas to publish, think of this different segment of your life. Your academic publication is just a very, very small compartment of your publishing life, but it is in the context of your whole life, in your all positionalities and all identities. I don't know, being in a particular society, being in a particular church, working in a particular academia. So try to take those components all together and see your publication venue within that context. So you are never the writer only. And that brings me perhaps to one of the major points of these presentations, that publishable, again, another P word, the publishable ideas start with taking your own positionality seriously. It's because you are always situated in a given society, in a given social, political, religious context, and to that you relate, and from there your positionality can get voice. Then you can also turn authentic. Here I gave some of the aspects, but these are of course not all aspects of positionality one can consider. Your own biography, your own life experience in theological research always matters. Because in theological research, we seldom produce research which can be redone by others. And that stresses both your uniqueness, but it also underlines the responsibility one gets when getting pen or, well, opening one's computer. So by respecting the unique life experiences that each student brings into the classroom or in your study, we empower all students as knowledge makers. And this is valid also for publishing societies or publishing houses. We allow each student to assert individualized knowledge that contributes to a collective understanding. And this contribution to a collective understanding is quite important, because we always join a circle of those who started the conversation about the topic, about the interests we have. And first we have to listen, but we also have to identify in which circle we go and sit and listen. For example, on questions about migration and theology, there are so many circles in which this is theologically thematized. But where do I sit? Whom do I join? Whom do I listen? And can I tell why I join this particular circle and why I don't join the other? So where do I contribute? You in the circle, you end the circle, because academic publishing is always joining in where some people already went ahead, and it always requires utmost humbleness, but it also requires the boldness of, yes, I can contribute with something. Well, promises of and perils of positionality is that positionality can become quite the fashion of the day. Thanks God, we are a little bit behind that after that fashion, but in like 10 years ago, still positionality was always just checked out with a box like I am a Western white female, or I am a black male from Africa, for that sake. And then you expect that somebody with that, your positionality is done. No, positionality in publishable ideas means that it functions throughout the whole text you publish. So you leave your mark, your trademark, your positionality speaks from each and every word, how you formulate your text, which questions you ask, what kind of methodology you develop. Those are all related to your positionality. Then the question of sources, of course, which goes back to the issue of the circle. Be sure that in order to get publishable ideas, the publishers you submit your text for will check your sources as well. So based on what kind of sources do you come up with genius ideas? Were they already there? Do you work with newly generated primary sources, oral sources, audio, visual? So all these things will be checked. Don't forget that you are a researcher, a writer. You are always an interpreter of what you are perceiving from the word through your sources. So you are this hermeneut in which we show during the research process and writing process, you show how the complexity is present in your text and in your research. So what to publish, how to publish, and where to publish. You see that I hope that by now somehow these questions come together so that we can further think about it. And you see that theology, again, writing theology, and then you have the full circles is done, becomes and remains a spiritual discipline. Maybe just a few more practicalities to recapitulate. So where to start the discipline of writing, the importance of peers, and to pair that up with writing short texts. So the habit of writing short texts. I don't know how many unpublished book reviews I have in my drawer. So they may not always be published, but they have to be there so that you get this habit of, okay, even if it's like 300 words a day, I do produce 300 words a day. And in my case, I know there are people in this group who are writing much, much more and publish much, much more. If I look at Roman, he is like, pouring out ideas, works, publishing a lot. Some of us are not that abundant with words, but don't be afraid of that. So make sure that what you publish stands. Presentation at conferences, talk to your peers. Submitting a text, prepare your text carefully. Publishers get very, very annoyed when the text is not nice and clean. If it's full with mistakes, if it's full with unorderly argumentation, they will read it in that way. And the chance that you will get a reject is much, much higher. So prepare your text carefully and link that again to the spiritual exercise. The submission is never a try out. You go for it fully. So we never, okay, let's try with this journal. You must be convinced why that journal and why do you want to publish that text. And make sure that your text gets to blind peer reviewers. Most of our journals, they have a gatekeeper. So if these formalities are not in order, then you don't even get to the blind peer reviewers. So that's just a waste of your time and a waste of your energy. And work with deadlines. Try to work with deadlines. Deadlines are also quite helpful in producing very good ideas, but don't get too far with deadlines. Check your arguments before submitting your text on credibility, integrity, complexity, focus, innovation, and creativity. And the list is not complete, but these are some of the dimensions I try to check my own text whenever I publish something. Cite your sources. I think here I enter in the realm of repetitions, so no plagiarism, and I don't have any slides on the AI. That's another business. Most probably you will have somebody talking on that as well. But give credit where it is due and show in which circles, what kind of big company you are corresponding with and writing with. I had some assignments to write just in case we don't have any questions, then we can look, for example, to an example like how you can get new ideas. But I look at the time and I'd say it's 16:32. So let me just stop here and continue with each other from here.